think this is it. I think I'm truly back. I've spent maybe about 14 months staring blankly at a blank script, but yeah, let's do it. I think this is it. Cyberpunk 2077 is a story about a man, and, well, I guess he doesn't have to be a man, I'm just going to say man, and his fight for survival. It's a sad story built on an even sadder world made by Mike Pondsmith, and it has some of the best storytelling I've ever seen in any piece of media. It's a fake world filled with fake characters that could well be alive. A world that's so repulsive, yet you can't help but keep living in it. Cyberpunk media in general, whether it's the world of Neuromancer or the Cyberpunk Red board game, tends to have a certain echo to it. Some form of shroud keeping you from looking behind the curtains. Usually it's a higher purpose the character must achieve before something bad happens, and it's a tactic that is copied by the in-universe corporations as they erect billboards or pour millions into ad campaigns to keep you content with your subpar life. So what's behind that curtain? Well, in the case of V, there lies a quieter, more personal story. And it's a story that starts with a question. And oh boy, do I hate that fucking question. From the moment V is infected with Johnny Silverhand's engram, the clock starts ticking. I mean, obviously it didn't just start ticking. V's always been alive, just like both you and I. We are all ticking closer to that final curtain call. And humans are naturally scared of the end. The emotions V feels are perfectly normal for anyone in his situation. That is, if anyone's ever been in his situation before.
We should do this again sometime.
This is bullshit. This is bullshit. I'm not listening to this. You are insane.
No, you're insane. And we simply do not have time for this crap.
Some people ignore it and some fight it. Others, myself included, are driven by a fear that they just can't shake. And Cyberpunk 2077 hammers home on this point. A young man with his entire life ahead of him can't take his eyes off the clock. He can't hear anything, but it's constant ticking. His fear of being forgotten is his driving force. Silverhand's engram or not, it throws him into a struggle for meaning. It's his very legacy. It's fading away in his hands before it was ever written down. So he fights. He fights to write a life that mattered in a city that doesn't. Every choice, every alliance becomes an attempt to carve out something lasting in a world where people die horrifically and peacefully without a trace every day. Whether it's through the bonds he forges with characters like Panam or Judy, or the enemies he creates along the way, V's legacy begins to take shape as a reflection of who the player chooses to be when faced with their own mortality. Something most human beings aren't lucky enough to be able to hide from, yet you paid almost $60 to experience it, didn't you, you sly dog? A city that swallows its people whole, it's not a city at all. To me, it's more like a living, breathing organism fueled by the distrust and death of its inhabitants. Their dreams fading as profits rise, industries losing important oversight, causing massive ethical issues, based solely on the company's profit margins. So why bother making a mark in a world that clearly doesn't deserve your mark? I don't have a good answer. V is surrounded by characters with finished viewpoints, characters who have spent their lives doing one thing, being one person, being ready to leave one mark. And now V finally gets to decide who he wants to be when the lights turn off and the sun shines on Night City streets. When playing Cyberpunk 2077, you get to meet a ton of different people who all have their own part to play. From the door girl at the Mox's Club who remembers your face while pondering her life as she smokes a synth cigarette only to quickly re-forget you again. Or Yorinobu Arasaka, a man who will never forget your face, no matter which ending you decided on. V leaves his mark on people more often than I even think the player realizes. Every conversation you partake in, it's an opportunity for people to remember your version of V for whatever reason you'd like to give them. And even in real life, we all create these kind of ripples, shadows of our existence, permanently marked on the steps of people's minds. A friend's life saved, a lover's heart broken, these are ripples of V's life. And for the people who knew them, those moments matter, whether they hurt or not. Their reactions to your V's existence show the depth of the connections you made. Even if the city moves on without a second glance, never to remember you, never to think of you again, was it worth it, knowing some people, the right people, will remember you? Or did you do all of that just to fade like the rest of them? You left a mark on a select few people who will forever cherish that memory, and how could that not be good enough for you? V's endless dream to be the top mercenary in Night City is a fire, and it burns everything in its path, singeing his name on the walls of history, and the people who stand closest to him. His desire to be remembered, to become a legend in a city that forgets its dead so easily, pushes him to take risks most wouldn't dare. But in his relentless climb to the top, he often loses sight of what and who he's sacrificing to get there. But this attempt, this action to take control of his own fate, retake his life from the corporations that control most of Night City and its inhabitants, can be seen as an act of defiance against the world he has been forced into. Yes, the road is paved with pain and loss, and the people closest to him can often pay that price. But that's because V refuses to accept a life of quiet anonymity. How did I write that word without knowing how to pronounce it? Anonymity. He wants to be known, goddammit. Like, he wants to be known. His ambition forces him forward. A desperate need to prove that his life mattered. Fuck that word. A move that proves that he was here. He was present. And through that fight, he leaves his impact. Not always for the better, I understand that, but one that can't be ignored, no matter who you are in Night City. It's not a clean or noble pursuit, it's a fucking horrific one. But in Night City, what is V's refusal to fade quietly? It's a kind of victory in itself. Getting that drink in the afterlife is its own victory. No matter how many bodies you climbed over to get behind the bar. So what's left? Not of this video, but of your version of V. What have you actually left behind? It's something no achievement hunter could achieve, no second playthrough could do justice to. So at the end of Cyberpunk, before your final curtain call, what's left? What did your V leave behind, and how will those characters you left behind deal with it? How will the world you left affect the Vs of the future? Because in the end, whether it's a brutal ending or a beautiful one, that's the message behind your choices, behind the words uttered from your character's lips. The thoughts going through your head as you connect to a character who isn't real, yet feels so alive. The mission is one of pity and self-discovery in a world where everything is built to avert your tension, whether it's the streetlights and world building of the board game, or emotions of the video game. It's all there to take your eyes off what's most important. And that's the message. What is most important to you, and is worth fighting for? Throughout this video, I have talked your ear off about how Cyberpunk is a story of legacy, of meaning. But maybe when staring into the void, when sitting on that balcony with Johnny, you don't have those same feelings, those same fears that I do, of being forgotten, not reaching some arbitrary potential. Maybe you fear something else. It's an open-ended question, and it's one that I can't answer for you. So I leave it in your hands, whether it's a video game or in your real life. What does V's legacy mean to you?